Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be doing some testing on some thermal paste. And does it really matter how you apply your thermal paste? We're going to hopefully answer that today in today's video. Let me roll that intro and I'll be back to see if it really matters how you put your thermal paste on your CPU or not. I'll be right back. Alright guys, if you're on a tight budget and you like tech, you like PC gaming, you came to the right spot. Make sure you give me a like on this video, dislike if you don't like it, leave that comment section below. Don't forget to hit that lonely little subscribe button and that notification bell while you're down there. Alright guys, like I said in the intro, today we're going to be doing some testing on some thermal paste applications. I picked three of the most common type that people say to do. You know, you have the X, and they say to do the X because of the way the 4 chiplets is laid out underneath inside of the CPU. And then you have the P size drop or the rice grain size drop. We're going to test that one. Then we're going to do my spread method, the way I like to spread mine out. We're going to test it and see how it fares. And we're going to also test the stock heatsink. You know, the thermal paste that comes on the stock heatsink out of the box. We're going to also test that one, and we're going to see how it compares. Why this video came about 2 weeks ago. Sorry if I butchered your name in this one. Like, I ain't very good with names. Everybody knows this by now. Abash Dixon, 2 weeks ago. Your thermal paste application method is one of the best I've ever seen. What did you use on your finger to spread the thermal paste? That was on how to upgrade your AMD Ryzen gaming computer of 2019. Okay. And then that video he's talking about, you know, like you see in any of my other build videos, I always spread my thermal paste out. You know, I put a piece of Scotch tape over the end of my finger and I spread it out. He was actually in chat last week when I did my live stream. I didn't see it until the end of the stream, but he put it in chat. It would be great if you would do a dedicated video on thermal paste application. So that brought this video about, and I did research on it, and not a whole lot of people's covered this. It's been a big topic in the computer industry for many years of how you should put your thermal paste on, and different, you know, people say you get air bubbles if you do it this way, and people say you don't get, you know, proper coverage if you do it that way. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of come from an old school thought on doing this. I'm going to be using the cooler that came with my Ryzen 7 2700 for this. And it had the thermal paste still on it because up till now, I've been using the Hyper T4 from Cooler Master. And I thought this was a good opportunity to use that. We're going to test that thermal paste. On the rest of the tests, as far as the X goes, as far as the P size drop goes, or rice grain size goes, and my method of spreading it out, we're going to be using a little product called MX4 thermal paste. It's very popular on Amazon. A lot of people use this thermal paste, so, and I had it laying around, so that's what we're going to use in today's video for the test, you know, to see how it compares. And this is for the, you know, this is for the testing of the applications. This ain't really putting one type of thermal paste against another or anything like that. Alright guys, just to give you a small rundown of what I'm actually running here. Everything's running at stock. Even my RAM, I turned off XMP, running it at stock. CPU's running at stock. It's like 35, 40 degrees outside. I got the furnace on, set to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you know, the room temperature is going to be pretty well within range. Okay, the system that I'm running the Fractal Design Focus G case. I got the Ryzen 7 2700, which is running stock. I have the GIGABYTE B450 DS3H motherboard. I have the XFX Radeon RX 580 GTS Black Edition. For my video card, my RAM that I'm running is G-Skilled Ripjaws 5 Series, 32 gigs. It's running at stock speeds. It ain't running at 3200 megahertz like I mentioned. For the storage drive, I'm running a 660p NVMe hard drive. For the cooler, we're going to be running the stock cooler, which is the AMD Wraith Spire LED cooler. It's a thermal design power of 65 watts. And we have the Corsair RM650 80 plus gold certified modular power supply running the system. So that's kind of the specs of the system. The way I did my test Once I got the CPU cooler, which I'll show you the different ways that I did it, and I'll show you at the end of it what kind of temperature I was getting. I used hardware monitor to monitor the temps. I ran Prime 95 for 15 minutes. The best way I could figure out to run the test after 15 minutes, even before the 15-minute mark, usually within 7 to 8 minutes, the temperatures are going to hit its max and it's going to equalize out whenever you run a program like Prime 95. I mean, it stresses all the cores at 100% speeds, and that's for 15 minutes, you know, and as long as it ain't still climbing at 15 minutes, that's going to be the max temperature you're going to get. There's two questions that I've actually figured out that we're going to answer in this video today. Number one, does it really matter how you put your thermal paste on? And number two, a lot of people say that you shouldn't use the stock heatsink thermal paste. It ain't no good. It'll let your system overheat. Well, in today's video, we're going to kind of answer that as well, because I did run it with the stock thermal paste on it. Let me show you the clips of me putting it on the CPU different ways, and the configurations and whatnot, and you know, the results of the after 15 minutes of Prime 95 being ran. And then I'll be back with my final conclusion on this video and what I think we've learned from this video today. I'll be back. Alright guys, as you can see right here, the heatsink has got the original thermal paste on it. Well, that's going to be the first test that we're going to run in today's video. We want to see how this compares. Alright guys, it's been about 15 minutes. If you look down here at the clock, I don't know if you can see that on screen or not, but it's 5:24, so it's been about 15 minutes. Looks like it's running at 63 degrees. 28 was the minimum on idle. The max was 63 degrees that it got to. It hasn't really moved much in the last 5 minutes or so. It was running about 61 for the longest time, then it jumped up to 63 there towards the end. But it ain't gonna get no higher than that. That's about what you're gonna get out of it. All right, that comes off pretty easy since it was warmed up. And as you can tell by looking at the heatsink, it had pretty good coverage on it, even with the stock application of thermal paste. It wasn't too bad. All right, for the rest of these videos, what we're going to be using for the rest of the video. It's very popular within builders. It's from Amazon. It's the MX4 thermal compound. That's what we're going to be using for the next 3 tests on this. This one here, I'm going to go with one that people used to recommend, but I haven't seen a whole lot of people recommend it lately, but I'm going to add it into the video. And they say to make an X with the thermal paste. There we go. Of course, this one here came about because the way the die's set inside the CPU, you actually have 4 chiplets, and where you want to put them dots is usually right over top of where the chiplets would be inside the processor. That's why this one came about. It's a little bit older technique that people used to recommend. So we're going to test it today. And we're going to put the heatsink back on here. We're going to lift up the case to be able to hold that back plate back in. Alright guys, it's up to 5:55 now. It's been 15 minutes. Looks like the temperature's got up to a max of 64. It's now running 62 degrees, 100%. It's running about 3,000 megahertz or thereabouts. That ain't too bad. 63, 64 is about the same as what the last one was. Alright, and with the X, looks like we had a little much on there actually. But you have that. So let's go ahead and get this cleaned up. We got some down over the sides of it here, which that ain't that big of a deal. It's non-conductive, so it ain't gonna hurt to have a little bit on your system. You ain't gonna see it. And it kind of bugs me that it's there, and I know that it's there. But it happens from time to time. Alright, it's all nice and cleaned off. Now this time around, we're going to do what a lot of people say to do, and that's just put one drop right there in the middle, about, you know, rice size grain or a pea size grain. A little bit more. It didn't quite look like it was going to be enough. There we go. Just one little glob in the middle. That's what everybody recommends nowadays. Then we'll get the heatsink put back on here. Alright guys, it's been 15 minutes. It's now 6:30 a.m. We started 6:15. Looks like it's set at 64 degrees. The max was 65. The minimum was 33. The last screw here, pull it up off. We got pretty good coverage there. By looking at the heatsink, we got pretty good coverage. Not bad coverage on the CPU there. So we'll call that a win. We're going to put the P-size drop or thereabouts there in the middle, like we did last time. About like that. That may be a little much, but with my technique it'll be alright because we can get rid of it. Gonna pull the Scotch tape out, a whole roll here. Rip it off. Throw that piece away. Don't need that piece. It's got dust and stuff on it. We don't want that. You know, pull out a piece of Scotch tape. And I do this mainly, guys, just to cover my fingers. That way I don't get this stuff all over my fingers. And if you have any oils on your skin or whatever, you know, it kind of stops it from getting into the thermal paste. And we just spread it out here, get a nice little thin coat over everything, make sure it's good and covered. This is the way I normally do it. Okay. Yeah, we got a little bit much on it. We'll wipe some of it off here. There we go. There we go. There we go. That looks good to me. Does that look good to you? That looks good to me. We can call that a done thing. And the thing is, you can see, I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but I still got some thermal paste on me. Which, that happens. But I don't have that big old glob on my finger either. So I'm just going to take me an alcohol wipe here. And then we'll open her up here. Just like so. Then we're just going to clean that off. Ain't that big a deal. And like I say, this stuff can be, especially if you got hands like me that's got all this roughness on them, that stuff gets down in there pretty good. It's kind of hard to get out of there. The rest of it will come off when I take a shower tonight. Or here in a little bit before I leave the house. But that would be alright. Just clean it up a little bit of alcohol. It goes a long ways. There we go. Alright, we got that pretty well clean. Well, it looks like we still got a little bit on that. So we'll take another alcohol wipe. They're cheap. Alright. And we'll just go over this again. No big deal. No big deal. And you don't have to get this stuff, you don't have to get this stuff perfectly clean either, guys. I mean, you know, as long as you get the big major stuff off. Which there's guys say you shouldn't mix different compounds together and stuff like that. But, you know, thermal compound anymore. Alright, now since we've got it all cleaned up, let me reach up here underneath. I'll make sure we got the back plate on it here. There we go. I'm gonna set the heat sink down on there just like so. Try to get it lined up as close as we can here. Yeah, my cable was underneath of it. Okay, get the screwdriver over here. Reach in around the tripod. Alright guys, it's been about 15 minutes. We're running about 64C right now. The low was 34C, that was before I started the stress test, and the max was 65C. All cores and threads are still running 100%, right around 3 gigahertz on all. And there's the results. 64 degrees was the volume, the minimum was 34, and the max is 65. Alright y'all, now since you've seen the clips and you've seen the results of what my testing has resulted in today, you know, I've ran this on my personal rig. So there's any fresh, clean install of Windows. This is basically what your system would be. You know, it's got add back processors and whatnot running in it. You know, I tried keeping it as realistic as possible. All my drivers is up to date. My Windows is up to date. Everything like that. I try keeping it as close as possible to what a real world experience would be for you. And as you can tell by looking at it, by looking at them clips, if you want to go back and rewind and look at them, or if you want to stop and pause them and look at them, you know, the thermal paste that came with the stock heatsink was just as good as any application that I did with the MX4. So as far as the thermal paste being disregarded when you first buy a CPU, it's rubbish. You know, it does the job. Is it going to hold up with time? You know, I've always used it, and I've never had any problems with it. You know, it's like any other thermal paste. You know, after quite a few years, you may want to wipe it off and reapply it. You know, I mean, I've got systems that I built 8 years ago that I've never heard back from the customer saying they got any temperature problems. So, you know, that kind of bites that one in the dust. You know, it's what they supply you with on the heat sink's fine. You know, it wasn't running no worse. The temperature wasn't no worse with it than it was with any of the applications I did any other time. As far as MX4 goes, I didn't see no difference in temperatures. You know, they fluctuated 1 degree here or there or whatever, you know, as far as the max goes, or as far as the minimum goes, or what it was running when the test was done, you know. And by looking at the applications, and whenever I pulled the heatsink off after the test of each, I had pretty good coverage. You know, when I did the X, I had a little bit excess on it, a little bit too much. But as you could tell, you know, it didn't have much effect on the temperatures that I was reading, as the software was reading. So, you know, the way you want to put your thermal paste on, to me, by what I've seen in today's video, by doing this myself, I don't see where it matters if you use a P-size drop, if you spread it out, if you use the X. You know, when I first started this video, started doing the testing on this video, for this video, you know, I thought maybe I'd change my mind after all these years. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. You know, I thought maybe I'd see something different or learn something new myself, to where the way I've been doing it ain't up to snuff, or, you know, there was a better way of doing it to keep temperatures under control. But I didn't. You know, the X method, the P-size drop method, my spread method, they all within, you know, like I said, within a degree or two, you know, they're all about the same. Now, why do I still use the spread method? Why will I continue to use the spread method? Whenever you pull the heat sink off on the X method or on the P-size method, you can see the edges of the CPU wasn't covered. Does it really matter? Within today's test, it didn't matter. You know, it stayed with, you know, the temperature stayed within check. You know, when I did the X method, I think by looking at by the way it spread itself out, I put a little bit too much on. You know, the P-size drop, maybe I could have used a little bit more on it, because it wasn't all the way out to the edges of the CPU. But I'm still going to use my spread method. That way I know I get complete coverage, and I know I'm putting enough on there. You may agree with this, you may disagree with this. That's fine. That's why there's that comment section below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about my test, the way I did my test. You know, and I'm sure someone out there, I'm going to have haters saying that the 15 minutes wasn't long enough, that it didn't get hot enough to spread out the thermal paste and this and that. And for the guys, before you even type it, you're right. This does not show nothing over a long-term period. There's no way to test that unless you want to sit through a 4-hour video, and it's going to take years. You know, you have to set up 3 or 4 different computers, use them exactly the same over 3 or 4 years to really see any difference in any of the application types. And I don't have that kind of time to put into one video. And I don't have that many systems to test that theories on. So I'm not going to cover this. This is about the best way I could come up with to test this theory, and to give you some kind of guidance on what's the proper way you should put your thermal paste on. Like I said, with the test that I ran here today, there is no right or wrong way to it. It all did about the same. You know, I said it in this video, you know, I tried setting everything up the same. This is my main system. It's my everyday driver. You know, the case was always set up right. Both side panels was put on. You know, I didn't leave side panels off for one test. And, you know, I didn't do none of that. This ain't an open air test bench. You know, it's the Fractal Focus G case. If you want to look it up, it comes with 2 intake fans on the front and none on the back. That's the way she's set up. That's the way I did my testing for today. And that's the test I got. Of course, this is only CPU testing. But, you know, I tried to keep it as fair and make it apples to apples as much as I could anyways. But if you like this video, if you learned anything here today, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. There's that comment section like I mentioned earlier. You know, I go through them every week on my live stream, Saturday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here in the U.S. And if you'd like to become part of this small community I'm trying to build, or, you know, you'd like to know next time I put out a video, I go live on YouTube here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on. And with all that being said, you all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.